Hey, girl, hey.
Happy Thursday, Sean.
It's Thursday.
And it's the Single Mommy Hustle.
Hustle.
Hustle. Yes. I am so happy that we are here once again. I've been so encouraged this week to just get out your dreams. I've seen some great things this week and hung out with some friends just a little bit, not per pandemic usual.
Right.
With the social distancing, but just so encouraged this week. A friend of mine launched his delicatessen. And I went and hung out with him. His name is Drake. The delicatessen is called Champs Delicatessen, and it's in the Eastern Market. And so he did like his second warm opening, invited people to come out and hang out. But what I love got me kind of all happy on the inside parts is that, you know how I'm so excited, right. Is that his company shirts say candemic.
Oh, okay.
Instead of pandemic, candemic. Yeah.
During this demic.
Okay, during this demic. So I just want to encourage everybody who's watching, if you got our live notification, this is the moment for you to go ahead and click share. Start your own watch party because this is a big deal. Something to talk about.
Yes, share with your friends, share with your family, share. Click like and click share.
So, Sean, what's been going on with you this week?
It's nothing. Just trying to make it to Friday.
That's in a few hours.
Good. This work week been crazy. Been real busy at work, so I need some balance. I think it's because the hours is changing, the days are getting shorter, the nights getting longer, which I've been getting a little rest, so I haven't really felt too tired. But I just
today, looking out the window and seeing that the time is like not matching up with the sunlight anymore.
Right,
it's starting to get to me a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I say. It'll balance out in a minute, but it's just really weird right now.
Yeah. So it's been a week for me. Today was like, do I got to get out the bed? Well,
if you don't,
I got out the bed, though. I'm here.
I have to get out. Ain't no choice in it unless I'm going to take a vacation day.
Okay.
I got to get out the bed, go to work.
Well,
I don't want to hear that.
Also for me, like, because I'm a full-time entrepreneur.
Right. I'm not there yet.
I still have to get up.
Man in the morning.
But I am the man that I got to holler at the morning. So a part of me be like, get up, girl. You got stuff to do. But the other part be like, but I just need 5 more minutes, Mom. So this week has been kind of hard because my body and my mind just ain't been kind of coordinating 100% together. And then like one day I was coughing. And it was a weird cough.
You stay over there.
But I think it was I think it was like a combination of the rain and the stress and then where your mask is at?
Where my mask is? Girl, why you say that? I had a grown woman today come to my desk and she said, Miss LaShawn, do you got some masks? Girl, what? I just said, here. I had something on my day. Here you go. On there, girl. She said, do you got some masks?
Do you got the masks?
I thought only the kids said masks.
I love it, though.
This was a grown woman.
Look, we're going to just represent for the culture. It's the masks.
It's the masks. She said, she wasn't playing. She came up there. She got to work and forgot her masks.
One day, just randomly, I was like, I looked at myself like, what you doing?
See?
I had to check my own self. Like, we're not doing that. But, I'm a habitual sandal wearer all year round.
I don't have time to play with you. That's why I said stay over there. You got it's 50 degrees and you got your toes out.
Whole toes out in the rain, in the drizzle. Running in the CVS.
You asking for it.
So that part. And then, like, I felt the cough, and the cough went away the next day. And I'm like, this is mental. So then I had a little tingle in my throat. I hurried up and made me some emergency. You saw my status. I made that good quarantini. We can't look in the shutdown. We came up with some quarantine immuno boosters. Okay, so I had some emergency raspberry emergency mixed with some echinacea tea and a little smidge of Patron. Just a little smidge to kind of knock
like a hot toddy.
Like a hot toddy. I woke up drenched.
It get it up out you.
It did. I was like, thank you, Lord. Whatever it was, it's gone. But then today I woke up and it's like, okay, now I got sinus pressure. You know, I feel a little cloggy, so I lost my lashes in the sweat out. I woke up, they was on my cheeks. I was like, this is not okay? But it's okay to not be okay right now.
Sometimes it is.
It is. But tonight, for our very last episode of the Pink and Purple month, it's been a month. We had some great people on with us.
We did. We had a great month.
We had a great month educating and empowering our community on the importance of breast cancer awareness and domestic violence awareness.
Yes.
So everybody is excited about our guest tonight. Woo! It's a big deal. So I'm very spoiled. You know how I am when I just have people that I know, love, and trust around me. I just, I don't know how to act sometimes. And I am just so excited from the top of my head to the soles of my feet to have one of the best mentors in the state of Michigan, Minnesota, Texas, probably a whole bunch of other states I don't even know about, and the Virgin Islands.
No, worldwide then.
I'm telling you, this lady right here, just as humble can be. I have gleaned and grown so much from her and her daughters. My daughters, when I told them, because one year they weren't with me for Christmas, and I went to this lady's family's house, and first of all, the tree was amazing. It was like so tall, it was leaning over. And it was gifts from under the tree across the whole living room floor.
Oh, wow.
And I'm a lover. Like, I love to see people get gifts. I just love to see people happy. So I'm just enjoying watching all the grandkids and great grandkids open their gifts and cousins and everything. And then they gave me a gift. I was crying. I was like, oh, no, y'all didn't. No, y'all didn't. So I do not have a bio to read because, we just have a good girlfriends conversation here at the Single Mommy Hustle. But I did want to read something that popped up in my memory from last year from someone else that I know and love, and I'm sure our guest knows her very well. It says, yesterday, with so much love, I was honored just to be in the room with these women. Domestic violence awareness, my sister in love, Erica Maria, asked me to be a part of the Partnership to Peace brunch yesterday. This event allowed all of the domestic violence entities and the Detroit Police Department to have the conversations on how to heal the community with programs and the police department for a greater healing of all. I was there to speak on breathing, releasing old energy, meditation, and yoga. I met my sis from my mother, Sheila Hankins, who has been a domestic violence advocate since I was a child. I grew up going to work with my mom in domestic violence shelters, listening to motivational tapes and playing with the kids whose moms were in the shelter. I never even thought about it. I was raised to help women. That was my normal. Even as a child, I was putting together domestic violence manuals. I knew what verbal and physical abuse was. I knew how men mentally controlled women and how to recognize the signs. Thank you, Mommy. So grateful. What my mom has done for domestic violence and women brings tears to my eyes and warmth to my heart. So many women came up to me saying how my mommy changed their lives and taught them all they knew about domestic violence. And now they are in their communities making a change. This is some real yoga shit, Mommy. I love you, women and men. If you are in an abusive relationship of any form, know that this is not acceptable and there is help for you. And that was from Lisa, Umi's daughter. Mm-hmm. So we just have to give a huge round of applause and thank you for Umi for being here with us tonight. It's amazing to have you here. I've grown so much. And Sean, you've been here all month and everybody has a reference to Umi this month.
Yes.
Hey, Umi, hey.
I love you, Umi.
Hey, I am so happy. You got me sitting up here crying. It's big
Ooh.
tears coming out of my eyes now from hearing what Lisa said about me a year ago and remembering that. But more than that, Erica, you talked about my impact on you in your life. I'm telling you, when I mentor people, I learn just as much as they do from me from them. And I think that's the miracle of it. That's why you do it. If you went into mentoring, if you went into looking at even your children, thinking that you know all and and they have nothing to offer, then you could not be successful at all. So I always have my ear open. I always have my eyes open, and I'm watching you, Erica, and I'm just so proud of you. Just so proud.
I'm so spoiled. I'm the bratty DV kid. I
Yeah, and,
am.
and everybody needs to know that she tells my children that she's my daughter.
I am her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I be like, I'm your real sister.
That's right.
Right.
So we are so thankful to have you here tonight, Umi. And Umi, do you want to, I gave that brief overview of who you are to so many of
Your
us in
introduction.
introduction, but can you just tell us exactly who you are and how dope you are that you decided to change your name from Shelia to Umi, how that happened, and what else you're doing right now in this world making change?
Well, all interesting. I mean, life is a journey. And so I think that everything that I have ever done has always led me to the next step to what I am doing and has enriched me tremendously. And so, to sum up that, I would say that for over 40 years, I have been working to ensure that I can advocate for and uplift the voices and thoughts of women and their families and their communities. And so that's, it sounds almost impossible to say, but that's been going on for over 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had numerous jobs, numerous placements, whether it was running shelters, domestic violence, sexual assault shelters, or working for the state of Michigan, state of Florida,
Mm.
working in for-profit organizations and helping to provide technical assistance or working as one of the um, people who founded the Institute on Domestic Violence in the African American
Mm-hmm.
community at the University of Minnesota. It's just been a marvelous journey for me, and I've learned so much. I think as far as what my name, yeah, I did have a name change. People call me Sheila. People call me Stella. People call me Celia, and it's just never really made any difference. And a friend of mine, Convincia Brave, one of my other daughters in the field, said to me, don't let people call you by your wrong name. And I was like, I'm not invested in my name. I don't care if they call me any of that. I'm just not invested in it. And she said, but you have to. It's your name. And I said, yes, but, it just doesn't mean anything to me. If there's any name that I love, it's Umi. And she said, why Umi? And I said, because when my grandson, who was just, 2, 3 years old, when he would call my name, he would say, Umi,
Oh.
Umi. And it would just melt my heart. And so if there was any name that I was ever invested in, it was Umi. So Convincia let me know that that joy needs to be in my life every day. And I needed to just go ahead and claim my name as Umi. And then therefore, every time someone says it, I feel that joy throughout my soul. So that was the change of my name. As far as
Wow.
what I'm
Oh
doing
wow.
now, I'm really semi-retired. Every time I say I'm retired, then I have to look at how many hours I'm working a week. So I realized that I'm not really retired, but I'm a consultant, and I right now have a couple of contacts that I'm really focused on. One of them is with UGMA, the National Center on Violence Against Women in the Black Community.
Hey, Karma.
We're Yes, hey Karma.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And then also doing some work with DVRN, which is the Domestic Violence Resource Network. But all of my work specifies the issues, work looked at how do we address the issues of violence against women and their families and communities? How do we uplift the voices of women? And specifically, how do we do that for Black women and children or children of color and the Native population as well? So it's a journey. It's a wonderful journey, and I'm having a ball.
Yeah, it's ashe, ashe, ashe. And so I love that, Umi. I mean, you do so much more, and I don't even think you realize it. Um, or maybe you do, and you just the bomb like that. I often tell people like Umi has the capability of a true mother, and the meaning of Umi, it really resonates with how she exists in this world. Because with all of the women and maybe some men that she mentors, she has the ability, just like a mom. You know how you know all of your kids. She just knows us. She can kind of predict what we'll say and do next. And so that's how she moves between us and nurtures us individually, and then can still bring us all together and nurture us the same way. Like, it's no difference. But I know I'm special. I know I'm the one. So
Girl.
And you are. I can tell when you're thinking about me, and you can tell when I'm thinking about
yeah.
you. My phone will ring late at night, and it's all good.
Yeah,
It's
I'll be so
all good.
thankful. Like, I mean, what you doing? Because I was thinking. And I appreciate it. And we also have one of my sisters, my new sisters, that I had the opportunity to meet because of opportunity through you, Umi, with the NCJ FCJ cohort, learning cohort, in collaboration with Ujima, Miss Eloise Sepeda in Austin, Texas. And Eloise is here with us tonight. And I love her. I met her in New Mexico, and we instantly just clicked. She had on like a dope shirt. I had on a dope shirt. She was like, "I like your shirt." I was like, "I like your shirt." We're real big on putting our message right across our chest. Be the change you want to see, and dope chicks do exist. Single mommy hustle, I am evidence, all of those great things, right?
Yes.
But I think what I love most about Eloise is that as a survivor and a service provider, we kind of mirror each other in the idea that and because she's also a woman of faith, that you don't have to look like what you've been through. Because Eloise be sharp, baby.
And thank God you don't. I also always say that. Thank God you don't look. I don't look like.
You
or
better
you don't
thank
look
'em.
like what you've been through.
And that's real. That's so
Yeah.
real. Because I think on TV and stuff, they project this image of survivors. They project the image of people who work in shelters and work in programs. Like, we supposed to be these little old ladies with tight curls and, cardigans and unhappy,
No.
but we glow, baby.
Yes, and we serve.
And we
I do. I
serve.
serve looks. Okay.
I love it. And so Eloise be serving them same looks, baby. I be like, look, she texted me one day and I was like, wait a minute, I'm loving the cut. Like, I'm about to just dye my hair blonde, bump the
Right, I
red.
see her over there.
Okay, flawless.
Yes.
So Eloise, can you tell us, welcome to the Single Mommy Hustle. Can you tell us who you are and what you're doing out there in Texas?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I am beyond honored and humbled to be on your podcast. You are such an amazing friend and sister, and just woman that is such an example to so many. I'm so proud of you for all of your accomplishments and overcoming so many hardships and never taking no for an answer. That's the kind of women I roll with.
Right.
And also to, of course, be in the same space with Umi. I'm always just like looking for crumbs. Let me just see what I can take with me. Let me see what I can gobble up. So I am in Texas, Austin, Texas, to be exact. Woo, you nailed it. I don't look like what I've been through, because I don't even know that a Halloween mask would do justice for that.
Okay.
Being tore up from the floor up, dragged through the dirt, the mud, homeless, a survivor with my children, literally asking for change, for snacks or bus, um, staying in people's attics and from home to home for the believers that let me in, and that's how I became a believer, because I didn't have a faith before then. And I began to just, I made a decision and I said, I want to start learning. I want to find out why I'm crazy. I want to
Right.
find out why I want to fight everybody, why I can't keep relationships. I can't keep a job because I want to fight my boss, or I quit and I'm out the door. And the more that I learned about trauma, I realized that there were so many people around me that didn't know. It was so normalized in my community and in my family that I would take what I learned and I would take it to the community and share it, or my family and my friends. Then I'd go back and I'd learn more. And I just found myself studying and reading and using little light to read. I mean, I would read on the bus. I would, read in line at the welfare office. I was
Right.
always reading because I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted people to know that love should not hurt. And there is a way out, and there is hope for the worst situations that we as survivors can and have experienced. And there's hope for our children. I
Right.
learned how to be a better parent along this journey. I was not a good parent. I would fight in front of my kids. I would just be out there, and
Yeah. I
I
mean, it
couldn't be
happens.
sober. Yeah. I mean, I just, I was coping, I was dealing with it, I was surviving. And the more I learned, the more I would go back to my kids and say, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't know. And so today I am remarried to an amazing
He's so
man
cool.
who spoils me. Yes, you know him. He's dropped in on our FaceTimes a couple of times.
Hey, bub.
He's listening. He's probably going to drop a comment.
No, tell him that we don't want any of his corny jokes tonight. His dad jokes.
Yes. He does tell the dad jokes.
It's cool.
We have our 5 kids, we have our grandkids, and I'm not all the way sane, but I am more than what I used to be.
Come on, that part.
That part.
Yes, I agree with that statement wholeheartedly, baby. I'm so thankful. I am not who I used to be.
Amen.
And that healing part, though, right, Sean? Because Eloise is also a grandmother too. Also, and her grandbabies are little like yours. Oh,
Hey.
so cute. But I think that's really important, because when we start to really do some introspective looking at ourselves as survivors and wanting to heal, because it's like, I want to be in a relationship.
Right.
I want to know, why is it me? Like,
Right.
I'm the common person in all of these circumstances in my life, so it might be me. So I may need to heal.
From
And
that.
educating yourself is a
That's
big
how
part.
you know you healing, when you recognize it. Like Eloise said, okay, I don't do that no more.
Right.
So thank God for that. Now I might not be 100%
Right.
where I want to be, but I'm not doing
But I'm
that.
getting there.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So that's the healing in itself, that recognizing you had a problem and you fixing it.
Yeah.
Working on it.
I think one of my favorite songs is John Mayer, "In Repair." And yeah, well, I love John Mayer. Like, I'm a groupie.
I like him. No, I ain't, not on that
I
level
am.
though. I
But
like some of his
one of
stuff.
the lines,
She said, I'm a groupie.
I am. One of the lines in Repair is, I'm not finished, but I'm getting there. And I think that's so important. Something else that me and Umi were talking about this week was elder abuse, and how domestic violence shows up in the elder community. I had an opportunity one time with Umi to accompany her to one of her events on the intersection of domestic violence, STDs in the senior community and within the facilities. And so that was a big learning thing for me. Yeah. But I'm just curious, Umi. What are you thinking? What do we need to know? What does our community know
Right.
about the elder abuse
Because I was
with
about to
domestic
ask the question,
violence?
like, is it coming from their children or people around them?
Well,
Is it coming
as
from
far as
caregivers?
intimate partner violence.
Oh, intimate partner.
You
Okay.
know, we got some fly aunties and grandmas and
we do.
grandmas that's
But
still
you
dating
ain't gonna
out
be
here.
beating on my grandma now.
You ain't gonna beat on my auntie either.
Nope, sure not. Sure ain't.
Well, I agree with that 100% that we should not be experiencing violence in the lives of women who are over 50, 60 years old. It seems almost impossible to think about, but the reality is that it does happen. And so it is something that we have to talk about. And as Erica said, that there are many things that are going on, particularly in looking at the intersectionality of domestic violence, partner violence, as it meets with STDs that older women can also get. We've had a whole thing to happen in our culture where men are able to enjoy sex a longer period of time in their lives. And the reason that we were over at the center that Erica referenced, which was a senior citizens building, was because we were talking about the dynamics of what's happening with older women. So one, we have to recognize that they may or may not be abused right now, but they may have been abused as a younger woman, and now they're an older woman.
Wow.
And how has that impacted where they are in their lives? So just because it happened 20, 30 years ago doesn't mean that there hasn't been some impact on their lives today. So that was one aspect of it. And women also had an opportunity to talk about that. I mean, it was unbelievable how many of them just instantly wanted to talk about what's happened in their lives when they were younger women. But we did, but we need to look at what were the implications of that for how successful they were able to be, that trauma that they experienced. Not only do children experience adverse childhood experiences, but adults experience adverse adult experiences as well. And domestic violence is one, so leading into that trauma. The other thing, as we talk about older women engaging with sex and older men engaging in sex, then it's this whole issue of HIV. So your age is not a protective factor for you being immune to HIV. And as things exist now, in many of these senior buildings, we know that there is a rapid increase of HIV among men and women in those facilities. And what we find is that you may have men who are engaging in sexual relationships or same-sex partners for that fact, but with younger people who are coming to the building because they are servicing those senior citizens in the building. And they may not be using protection. And then men and women are having relationships with each other in these senior complex buildings. And so, that then is feeding into this whole issue of HIV. And, when you have it, it becomes a threat. So you're threatened not to tell anybody about it. There could be violence. If you say that you got HIV for someone, then you may be the victim of abuse because that other person wants to deny it and say he got it from you, and that's how it happened. And so there are those dynamics that are going on, whether it's HIV, whether it's herpes or other types of sexually transmitted diseases. Just because we get older does not mean we stop having sex, enjoying sexual relationships. And we have to make sure that the children are talking to their parents to make sure that they're being safe as well, just as we talk to our children.
I agree. I think it was so powerful. One, when me and Umi, when we talked about that one event in particular that we attended together, and I was just assisting, I'd be ready with the stapler and the paper to pass out with the extension cord. What you need, Umi, I got you. You dragging the bags. But I thought it was just amazing. One, the engagement of the other seniors that were in the building, and they joined in that conversation, and they were honest. They wasn't telling on their business because that's not what Black folks do. No. But they were engaged and asked some questions, and then even for me to be able to speak and talk about, I think I talked about some warning signs of domestic violence, and
You did.
asking them how they engage with their grandchildren and their great nieces and things of that nature. And it was a good time. It was some sassy ladies up in there too. I want to be
Yeah.
just like that, like 70, 80.
I'm gonna be like them.
You
Still gonna
know,
have
Erica,
bamboo earrings on at 90.
one of the things I remember, Erica, that as we were leaving, how many of the participants were saying, "Where can we get condoms?" And really, at that
Wow.
point, going to the building administration and saying, "Hey, you need to figure out how to bring in condoms to the building, so that there is that issue of protection and safety that we can do." But yeah, recognizing what are those signs, understanding that unprotected sex is harmful, and because when you have sex with someone not using any protection, you're actually engaging with sex with every partner that they've
That's
ever
real.
had. And
That's real.
so, you want to make sure you keep that in the forefront of your mind. And it is
Mm.
an act of violence in itself.
I agree. I agree. And I'm over here still picking up crumbs and stuff too, like Eloise.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to have more conversation about this and more training about this too. Because I'm laughing at Eloise. Because as we continue to do this work, and I always talk about the different classes, like the graduating classes that I reference here in Detroit, just with me starting to become involved as an advocate in the domestic violence and sexual assault world, and a little bit of human trafficking, right? But how Umi, and underneath her, if it wasn't for Kaylin, I would have never met her. So thank you, Kaylin Ritzker Foy, for the introduction. And even in that moment of meeting Kaylin and Umi in person for the first time, that was the first time I recognized that I was a survivor. I knew I had been in fights. I knew I had, some issues with my boyfriends and stuff, but I didn't know, one, that it was domestic violence and that I was a survivor. Like, I survived something? No, because I got my licks in too, right? But to just understand that, it totally floored me and empowered me at the same time, and to be able to grow and learn, right? So as we're still babes in this thing, right? We're every day we're learning and we're growing. But I always talk about how Umi and Jan and so many other people have lit a torch 40 plus years ago, that inspires the next class of women that are going to be fighting for our freedom and our liberation and our communities, and so that torch, no one lets the torch go. They just get their own and continue to lean it forward to the next group. And so as this continue being leaned forward, I feel so blessed and so privileged to be a part of that group that's now being ignited, and on a different level this year, because between October 2019 and October 2020, I am so on fire and ready and tired, exhausted. And I don't mean tired, exhausted in the physical,
Right.
just with the circumstance of how politics and programs are prohibiting us from moving forward and advancing, and making sure that these services are needed. So, this is something that we need to really talk about more with the elder abuse, because if we're going to continue on this fight and this journey, we need to be able to service those people as well. What are you thinking, Eloise?
I'm hearing what you're talking about, Eric, and I'm thinking about why it's so important that the cohort that we're a part of is uniting. Because in order for us to light each other's torch or to pass the torch, we have to be united. And for the first time that I'm aware of, women of color across the nation are being united in this work, and we're being empowered and we're being supported. And I think about the cultural approaches, and it's not just politics and legislative limitations, but it's agency limitations as well. More women of color have to be lifted up
Right.
and trained and empowered
Right.
and honored for their experiences that they bring to the table. Because I think of the people that had to deal with me, and you couldn't have thin skin to work with me. And I hear so many times, oh, she cussed at me, or oh, she's too crazy. That one's too much. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This
Right.
is trauma. This
Right.
is this is a response. This is impact. This is
Yep.
a outcry for help. And I think for the longest time, agencies have really struggled with that cultural connection. And this cohort is reimagining what that approach and support looks like.
And I think it's important because something came back through my timeline this today actually. I don't know if you guys saw the Facebook video. It was alive where this mom, her son had got pulled over for running the stop sign as he was bending the corner to pull over in front of their house, which is like a couple houses off the corner. So the police officer pulled up behind him, but he was asking his mom, "Is this the right documents?" He was 19, never been stopped before, and so the mom was like in full, "No, not my son. My son will not be a hashtag today. Not over here. Not now. You know." And
I didn't see that.
yeah, I had to tag you. But she was like, not today. She was in
Right.
full pajamas and bonnet and everything. She was like, no. She was like, ma'am, he ran the stop sign, write him his ticket and let us deal with it in court.
Right.
You don't get to ask him no other questions.
Right.
Are you
You
a
don't get to put your
felon? Are you on
hands on
parole?
him.
Are you on probation? She said you have everything you need to run his
That's right.
information and find out if he got warrants.
Right.
So we gave you what you need. Now give us the ticket if you're going to give us a ticket.
Right.
It turned
And
into
go
like a
head
30-minute standoff. She had called back up. 5 cars came. A commander had came. It was nuts.
Just for that. For a
Just
traffic
for
stop.
a traffic stop in front of his house.
And they tell you that supposedly you should be able to pull somewhere where you feel safe.
Where you feel safe.
Well-lit area. And then, of course, if you right by your house, you're going to pull right
He
there.
just pulled right in front. But he's, she was talking on the PA while she was following him. So he was calling his mom on the phone, and the mom could hear the officer on the PA. So she came right out like, give me your stuff. And so when he got out the car, he stood next to his mom. She had her hand on the gun. And he was
But
like,
why?
yeah, she was like, the mom was like, wait a minute, you're doing too much. Give us a ticket and
Right.
leave. Like we're fine with taking the ticket, but the part that I'm getting to is when the officer, the superior officer got there. All these other officers had interactions with her, and they kept saying that she was so aggressive. She was verbally abusing people because her voice was elevated. She said, "Not my son," So that cultural part that Eloise is talking about,
Right.
you want to deem us one thing because you don't understand how we communicate.
Right.
So it's important to understand that I'm not quote unquote non-compliant. I'm passionate and I'm
Right.
using my words, and I may elevate my voice. I
And
may
it's
move
okay.
my
It's
hands.
nothing saying I can't do that though either.
It's not against the law. And so now you change the narrative because you aren't willing to understand the culture that I come from, and that I'm not being, disobedient. I'm standing.
not resisting.
I'm not resisting. I'm standing firm in what I'm saying to you.
Right.
Write me a ticket. Okay, I'm wrong. Write me a ticket and leave us alone. So it's just important as leaders, cultural leaders, doing this work, that we do stand up for our communities and represent our communities authentically. No more code switching. I made my mind up. I ain't code switching for nobody no more. I don't care if I said ghetto, hood, eloquent, educated. You heard what I said.
Yeah.
You heard me the first time. And if you need me to explain it, then that's something different.
Well, Erica, I wanted to point out that as Eloise had mentioned, being in this cohort together, one of the projects that we've been blessed to work on, and that would be Eloise, you and I, and many other women in Texas and Minneapolis and also in Detroit, that we belong to a learning cohort where we're looking at changing how child welfare interacts with Black, Native American, and Latinx families, because disproportionately our children are put into child welfare system and put into foster care, taken out of the home, taken away from their families, and yet the same rate of neglect, what is called neglect, is experienced in all families. And so there needs to be a different way for us to focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
So this learning cohort that you and Eloise and others are involved in is looking at it from a culturally specific way. How do we make sure that we understand the historical nuances that have caused the perspective of how Black, Brown, and Native families are looked at, and therefore how judgment is made about what it is that they're doing, and therefore their children are taken from them, are that our families are over surveilled, and as well as taken more rapidly from their families and put into foster care. And that's not to say that their experience in foster care is any better. So we know that just being in the child welfare system is traumatic, and yet our child welfare system isn't considering the trauma that the parents are going through in their rush to save their children. Now, please be clear, children should not be abused. I am emphatically clear on that.
Amen.
We are not talking about allowing children to be abused. We are talking about how do we look at the racist attitude, the racist discourse that has historically gone on to cause then these disparate rates of families being taken, children being taken away from their families.
And I think it's important because we often talk about how not enough data and research is gathered on communities of color in the medical field and mental health, you know, and so in all these other different parts of the world in our community need to be investigated and built out as well, you know. So we have to do some more research and conversations on this specific area when as it relates to domestic violence, so we can kind of find some solutions and resolve, you know. So Sean, what was your SMH moment this past week? And an SMH moment is something in the last week that made you shake your head, made you laugh, giggle, cry, think a little longer. Just anything that kind of stands out for you. What was your SMH moment?
Just not letting
I can't
sweating
hear.
the small stuff, like letting simple stuff get to you.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, or like just don't. Some stuff you just gotta realize you don't gotta give your energy to that.
That's real.
And I found myself really at work, frustrated about a situation, and I just had to tell myself, stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Just go do your job. But you good, you happy, you blessed. Like don't give way to negative energy.
That's good. That's good.
So that was my thing.
Umi, did you have an SMH moment this week?
Well, I did, and it was more related to the work that we're doing. As we look at the current political administration, how an executive order has been signed to stop training, culturally specific training at federal programs, at schools and institutions, just stop all training regarding using institutionalized racism as a foundation for how you address the harm that's been going on for centuries in our families. And this week there was an article in which the USAID, which provides aid internationally, came out and said that it has also stopped all of its diversity training. And you know, here we have organizations that are going into foreign countries providing training for their workers to be able to more competently work with and support communities, and yet they're not allowed to have training on what it means, what the cultural factors are in those communities, and what is the best way for them to support each of those communities. I know when I lived in Florida, we were doing some international work, and we had an opportunity to go to some islands that were around there. And one of the trainings that we went to, they talked about the ugly American, the ugly American going into the international community with this greater than thou sense of how they operate, better than thou. And so it really broke my heart. I mean, I literally was shaking my head as I, was reading this article because it's impacted our field, the domestic violence field, because it's impacting the way that we can talk about historical trauma, that we can talk about historical oppression and the impact that oppression has had in our communities, and it just continues. And so I hope that there is resolution to that. So.
Yeah. I think it's so unfortunate. When I read that article also, and I think it's so unfortunate that people would refuse knowledge and understanding. I think it's sad, honestly. And it's a disservice to those who want to learn and grow, that you would put this mandate out, I don't know what else to say about that, but it is crazy, that we have someone in leadership that is so hell-bent on staying in 1775.
Right.
Versus 2020. But Eloise, did you have an SMH moment this week?
Girl, I had 2.
Uh-oh.
I gotta have one I can laugh at.
Right.
Because it keeps me sane. One is I'm still tripping about the toilet paper, y'all.
Oh my God.
I cannot believe it is gonna go down in history that we ran out of toilet paper.
Multiple times. For months.
Right.
Multiple times.
And it's still kind of
it's going back down now. Yeah.
And people learned how to wash their hands during this time. What?
Yes.
I almost spit.
Like what?
So what have you people been doing all this time?
Not washing.
You didn't learn that in kindergarten?
Right.
You're not just shaking your head at the last meeting.
Girl.
Okay. No, that was my laughter one. No, but I'm telling you, I gotta stay sane. My serious one is the reality of how unprepared the people were. We can say administrations, agencies, education. I mean, we can name every entity across, but humanity, people were so unprepared for this dual pandemic. One, the COVID and all of the health disparities that just rose to the top, and the reality of the lack of resources, and people seem shocked by that. Like there's so much education and information out there and advocacy for equity and equality, yet people were shocked that there are communities that couldn't access or afford a mask or sanitizer.
Okay.
And then the second pandemic is not a new pandemic of racism.
Come on and preach, Eloise.
There were all of these discoveries because now people have phones and devices to record and to share the racism, the hate against Black African American people. And yet I looked at so many agencies and entities that claim to be diverse and yet didn't know how to respond to that.
Within their own programs and their own companies.
Yes.
Not just in the world, operating in the world, but within your own
job, their own company.
And had to be reminded, check on your Black friends, check on your Black clients, check on your Black neighbors. Like, why are we having to remind you to wash your hands and check on people?
Right.
So
that's real.
That's my SMHs.
Well,
those were good ones.
Those were good ones. Those are really good. Snaps to you, boo. My SMH moment. Well, I had a few, but because I still don't know some other stuff. But the Amy, or what's her name, Coney, the Supreme Court Justice, this midnight cult thing that they did, this ritual they did in the middle of the night.
See, I kind of tuned out this week. That's why I don't really have any moments as far as the media and stuff, because I
and see, Trevor Noah, I love watching his show. He gave a great analogy about this whole thing, how they put her in, they just slid her in, right? Yeah. They deboed her way in, for lack of better words. He said it's one thing if you do a act in the daytime, it looks completely different doing the exact same thing in the middle of the night. And he said, so if you're outside digging a hole in your backyard during the daytime, nobody's really looking at you. They just like, oh, you're digging a hole in your backyard. But in the middle of the night with no lights on, in the dark, you just kind of digging this hole. What are you doing? You hiding the body, baby. You doing something different. It's something sketchy about it. You know, you just instantly see it that way, even if it's not.
Right.
And so, but this lady, I'm like, Lord Jesus, we going back to The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. We about to be all under his eye. She about to have you think these babies in cages and forced hysterectomies. Man, it's weird.
It's crazy because what little I've read about her was she doesn't really have the experience.
It's like nothing to read about her.
That become a Supreme Court justice, she hasn't even tried cases like that.
She hasn't.
They just went and found her somewhere.
I saw a post where someone said that our regular like 36 district court judges have more experience than her.
Look at her bio.
I was like, come on.
Or resume or whatever they put up there for her.
I said, this don't make no sense.
She has little to none experience.
So, period.
For you to be like, I want her. Like,
now.
We need her.
And we need her now. We're going to slide her in and debug because they did this. Y'all can't even vote on taking care of the
she's
world.
Somebody's cousin, a grandbaby or something. I don't know. They just went and found her somewhere and just hooked her up.
Knowing Trump.
But Erica, I wanted to bring up another shaking my head moment because I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Walter Wallace Jr. in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He is a 27-year-old young man who was shot by police, had obvious mental health issues.
Yeah.
His mother rushed out the same way that you talked about, trying to save the other young man, trying to explain that he had mental health issues. He was not charging. He was not attacking. And he was shot, I believe, 14 times.
Wow.
7 times by each of the officers that were there.
Wow.
Of course, he was, once he fell and dropped the knife, ambulance was called. In fact, the family had called an ambulance for him, and police showed up instead. So as we have these slogans like defund the police, they're not talking about this whole aspect that we should not deal with crime or things that are happening. They're saying that not all things should be resolved by police officers.
Right.
So perhaps a mental health counselor going out at that particular time to address the issues that the young man was going through would have been a better decision. So perhaps the funds, some of those funds that are going for law enforcement should be diverted to other organizations, community or neighborhood mental health organizations that would be able to handle that crisis a little better. So,
I totally agree. And I had watched something, because I'm a YouTuber. I love everything on YouTube. I was watching a documentary about another young man. It was a Caucasian young man, though, and he's in jail. And his circumstance was very similar. And the mom had called for an ambulance for him. And he ended up, he got harmed by the police, but he didn't get killed. But they arrested him, and he's sitting in jail. He's going to be in prison for a very long time without getting the necessary mental health resources that he needs. And she was talking about how many times the mental health system and the court system had dropped the ball for her son, and how right now he's like on suicide watch because he's just like, I wish I would have died. He had a car accident that turned into a TBI, which then spun into more and more mental illness that caused him to act this way. So most definitely, like, I think that We need to talk about some reform. And police officers are not superheroes. So everybody wants them to have all these extreme capabilities. They need to have like just separate entities within the police department.
Right.
That can go out when they get a certain type of call. When they have the 911 people trained to screen a little bit better. You know what I mean? Before a regular officer.
Or also that they have a number other than 911.
Other than 911,
There's
yeah.
another that can dispatch that type of service.
Right. That would be smart.
Yeah.
That would be smart.
Right. And just because, we say to divert those calls, but that's not an automatic just divert them to any mental health group.
Right.
You're right,
Right.
Erica. Because just as those underlying issues exist within the law enforcement, the criminal justice system, they exist within nonprofit organizations as well.
Yep.
Yes.
So, or state governments as well. So I think the whole issue of defund, abolish the police means that we have to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
That there has to be a different way that we look at the strategy of how we are doing that. But we must acknowledge that law enforcement, that policing started with the capturing of slaves.
That
So
part.
the mentality
Yeah.
that exists within our law enforcement system is based on that.
Yeah.
That's so real.
Because when you think about it, that's
That's
how
right.
law enforcement started.
Yeah.
They were the law.
Yeah.
And what it was about catching us and controlling
Yeah.
us and
Yeah.
beating us and
And then it turned
and it
into
just turned into
the 13th Amendment where we
Yeah.
just automatically criminals. We born criminals. So wind down. How do you wind down? And this has been a month. This has been a year. But in
I
this
need a
past
drink.
week, look, in this past week, how have you wind down, Eloise? Just give me one thing real quick. What's in your cup, boo?
Right now, I have a nice cold glass of sweet tea. Y'all gotta learn about my husband's sweet tea.
Ooh, I love sweet tea.
In our trip for Ann's birthday, I'm gonna bring y'all some sweet tea. This is Texas kind of sweet tea.
Ooh,
Ooh, that
is
sounds
sweet.
good to me.
I'll give you diabetes.
Diabetes.
I like it.
Give me some diabetes in my cup.
Yes.
I'm a raised
Yes.
diabetes.
I love sweet tea.
How you wind down this week, our love?
Yeah, so it's interesting when you were talking about you were talking. I sneezed twice at the beginning of the week, and I was like, you can't sneeze. If we
Sneezing
sneeze,
is not
we can't
allowed.
leave the house.
Right.
Yeah, we can't go out of the house. So what's in my cup? I have a mason jar. I have a jar, not a cup. And inside there, I have boiled some spring water with ginger and with a key lime that I have cut up inside there. It has sea moss
Oh,
that has, sea moss has 92 of the minerals and vitamins that you need. So I have that in there. I have some honey in there. And I actually this time put a little dandelion root in there as well. And so I've been sipping on that today in order to build my immune system. So I can't be sneezing again. I can't leave the house if I'm sneezing or anything like that.
No sneezing allowed.
None.
what's in your cup, Sean?
I had water. It's empty now, but
Absolutely.
I had
But water is essential.
Yeah, I've been trying to drink more.
Absolutely.
I've been good at it too so far. But when I ran out the door, this is what I grabbed.
Yeah.
So water today.
My wind down this week has been sea moss shakes, dandelion root, bladderwhack, burdock root, emergency, a smidge of Patron. Really just trying to build up my immune system too, because I'm usually at home.
The weather
but
is changing.
The weather is changing, and I just, I don't. So it's just been a lot of water this week, and I did have a couple glasses of wine, but tonight I'm drinking water because I need to flush whatever this is, built up this pressure in my eyes and my nose, and I don't know. I need to wake up. What can I get to wake up? I have been asleep all week. Knocked out.
Might be
Are
your
you on
body
your
just telling you.
L-theanine? Did you stop taking your L-theanine?
I stopped taking out theanine, but I started to get some when I went to the natural food patch. I started to get some more L-theanine. I saw a really big one, and I was like, "Ooh, I haven't had that in a while." But I think I still have some L-theanine in my cabinet.
That's right.
So I need to. You're saying add that to my little
Yeah,
cocktail.
200 milligrams in the morning, 200 milligrams later on that afternoon, and that evening. Clears your mind, makes you able to focus better. Ashwagandha also would be good for that. So those are two good things to pick up.
Yeah. So you have to text me how to spell ashwagandha.
I will definitely text that to you.
I know her.
I know her too. I think I know her.
I know her. No, I'm just kidding.
So I just have to say thank you. Me and Sean are saying thank you for
Thank
you
you
both
so
joining us
much.
this evening
Yes.
on the culmination of our Pink and Purple month,
Yes.
talking about the importance of domestic violence awareness and breast cancer awareness.
Yes.
Awareness. And it's just been a treat having our guest this month, but especially tonight, it's been like the climax of it all for me. I don't know about you, Sean. Did you climax?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time.
Ow.
Ow.
It's every time. I'm gonna get mine. But so yeah, it's been fun. We got some cool stuff coming up. Uncle Favors will be with us next week.
Okay.
from
I get to finally meet Uncle Favors.
Favors. Yeah, every day I'm okay.
Okay.
And that's his brand, and his mantra. He also does the Uncle Nearest whiskey, which is a black company.
Bring us up.
Yeah, you can
Put that in our cup.
Put that in our cup. And try to figure out when Dr. Sabrina is available to come hang out with us.
Yeah.
And Drake, who I was talking about with his delicatessen, I want him to come hang out in my one of my good friends, Jovi.
Did you have some of the sandwiches?
I didn't, because I can't eat the bread. But
Well,
it was
they
looking
got it.
good.
You can do it with the lettuce or something.
I didn't even bother him because it was so much going on. But we're gonna go. You want to go to Media Day? We can do Media Day.
When is it?
On Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's Saturday.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got some great things coming up over here at the Single Mommy Hustle. And I'm excited. And thank you all for joining us. Make sure that you share, like, subscribe on YouTube.
Like our page on Facebook, Single Mommy Hustle.
Yep. And you can find us on YouTube by typing in podcast Single Mommy Hustle. That's how you can get us right at the top at the screen if you type in podcast Single Mommy Hustle.
Yes.
But we got a lot of good things coming up. So Sean, I love you and I appreciate you. And I will see you next Thursday.
All right.
Thank you guys.
You,
Thank you.
yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.